Hello, gazers.
Hello, gazers.
I'm Dave Moor.
And I'm Dr. Lyonne. And together we are the Problematic Gaze. Each episode we take a piece of pop culture from yesteryear and examine it through the problematic lens and ask ourselves the question, could you get away with it today? And if not, why not? And what does that say about societal change?
We're doing this for our new listeners, aren't we?
Yes,
Gazers
we are.
of old.
Just flick forward 30 seconds at this point.
And before we take a deep dive into our chosen topic, we'll look at the news events of the day. We'll look at the film and TV landscape and the pop charts, just to put our chosen topic into context. And because it's still Pride Month, we're curating our episodes towards all things LGBTQIA+.
Very good.
It's the right mouthful, that, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
All things queer.
Yes.
Last week, our episode on Paris is Burning went down very well.
Yes, it
Got a
did.
really good response to that.
Yeah. And your voguing skills have come on.
My voguing skills have been on point since 1990, darling. My version of voguing has been on point. Not
Voguing.
necessarily
Okay.
correlates to the actual voguing. Am I making you laugh?
Yes, you are.
Why? What am I doing? Just existing?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Sometimes it's funny. Sometimes it does my fucking head in.
We are called the Problematic Gaze for a reason.
Yeah, we are.
Sometimes we do each other's nuts in, but most of the time we love each other, don't we?
That's true.
Say that with a bit more enthusiasm.
That's true, Dave.
Yes.
So what we're looking at today?
Well, this week we're going to go back to 1999 in the Teletardis, over the pond to the USA, to look at a satirical comedy film starring Natasha Lyonne and Rupaul. It's called But I'm A Cheerleader, a film which has since achieved cult status in the queer community. So, Lee, what's your relationship with this film?
I've never seen it. So when you suggested it, I was thrilled.
I first saw it about 20 years ago and haven't seen it since. Right. Yeah, watching it yesterday, it brought up a lot of burning questions.
Right. There's a lot to unpick in it, actually. But before we do, should we cross over to the news desk and have a look at some news events that were happening in the UK in 1999?
So the film But I'm A Cheerleader debuted on September the 12th, 1999. So these are the UK news events.
Yes, some of them.
Some of them.
Yeah.
Lots of things happened.
Yes, we're here for the next 2.5 hours.
Yes, but we've cherry-picked a few. So on the 30th of January, England national football team manager Glenn Hoddle gives an interview with the Times newspaper in which he suggests that people born with disabilities are paying for sins in a previous life. He's sacked 3 days later, surprisingly.
I mean...
Paying for our sins.
Oh, fuck off. But actually ties in with what we're talking about today. This
suggestion that God chooses how people are born.
Yes.
I mean, it's the manager of the England football team.
Yeah.
How did he ever think that he could get away with spouting such nonsense?
Because it's 1999 and ableism is still very much a thing. 2012 was probably the turning point in this country for disabilities on TV. It's becoming increasingly prevalent, rightly so, and great that it is, because it stopped being a thing the more visible something becomes. But at this point in 1999, there's very little visibility for disabled people. So what a twat.
What a twat.
Really sad news, the 2nd of March, singer Dusty Springfield, who received an OBE the month before, dies aged 59 at Henley-on-Thames after 5 years of treatment for breast cancer.
You were a real big fan of Dusty Springfield, weren't you?
Yeah, still am.
See, you're emotional about it.
Still am. Still am emotional and still a big fan. Yeah. What a loss. Only 59? Now, I remember at the time thinking it felt really old.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel that old now, does it?
Clock's ticking, darling.
Clock ticking.
At least you'll
don't have to say you love me.
At least you'll get to sing with Dusty when you shuffle off this mortal coil.
Yeah.
Not just yet. We need to make our first million before
Yeah,
you
obviously.
do.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be Karen as well.
Karen will be there, yeah. And Scylla.
And oh, good you. Oh, hi, Dusty. Hi, Karen. Hi, Scylla.
She'll be there with a glass of champagne, won't she?
She would, to be fair, yeah.
On the 7th of March, American-born film director Stanley Kubrick dies at his home in St Albans, Hertfordshire. Didn't know he lived in St Albans.
I think it's because he was filming Eyes Wide Shut that year.
Oh, I see. Very close to here, actually, to PG Manor.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. He dies of a heart attack aged 70, 5 days after completing his final film, Eyes Wide Shut, which is released in the July.
10 days later, Rod Hull dies.
Before we go any further, we can't giggle about this.
No, not going to.
Because it's someone's death.
I know. And you just said that, you bitch, just to try and... I'm going to be very serious. You're such a bastard.
How did Rod Hull die?
Well, let's first of all, if anybody doesn't know who Rod Hull is, Rod Hull was a huge TV star in the 70s and 80s, famous for the emu puppet. If you've seen our socials, about a year ago, Rod Hull had basically molesting Lulu. Anyway, so he is adjusting his television aerial and falls off the roof of his house and dies. 63. Again, that's just nothing, is it?
No, it's not. Moving swiftly on. Oh my God, death after death on the 21st of... We're only in March as well.
Oh my God.
On the 21st of March, comedian Ernie Wise, who formed one half of the Morecambe and Wise comedy double act from 1941 to 1984, dies of a heart attack aged 73 at Wexham, Buckinghamshire.
Do you think 1999 was like that year when David Bowie died and it felt like suddenly
Victoria
everybody...
Wood.
Yeah, it felt like everybody was... There was a run on. Maybe it felt the same in 99.
Yeah.
1st of April, a minimum wage is introduced throughout the UK. It'll set at £3.60 an hour for workers over 21 and £3 for workers under 21. That's a Labour initiative. That still goes a lot of resistance to it, obviously, beforehand. Because why are you trying to help poor people?
£3.60, eh?
Oh, gosh. Rich in 1999. You bought a house on that.
I feel like that fact deviated away from death. And I'd like to pull us back.
To death.
If you don't mind.
Not a problem.
Because on the 26th of April, TV presenter Jill Dando, I have to be really careful how I just said that, 37, dies after being shot on the doorstep of her Fulham home. And now this was huge news, wasn't it?
Gosh, wasn't it? She was the golden girl of the BBC. I guess she's kind of that bland... She's a bit like Fiona Bruce, I guess. Not bland, but you know what I mean? Inoffensive to a very wide demographic.
Yeah.
And she was on everything. And she'd been on the front cover of the Radio Times on the Lotus Elan, I think, with some leather trousers on. I thought, he's trying to be Diana Rigg. Anyway, a week later...
Wasn't you, was it?
She shouldn't have tried it, should she?
Dear.
Crashing on, there's some more really horrible news. April's a bit of a shitty month. First of all, on the 17th of April, a bomb explodes in Brixton. A week later, a second bomb explodes in Brick Lane, which injures 13 people. 45 people have been injured in Brixton. And then a week after that, a third bomb explodes in the Admiral Duncan gay pub on Old Compton Street, killing 2 people, including a pregnant woman, and injuring over 30. David Copeland, a 23-year-old Farnborough man, is arrested hours later in connection with the 3 explosions.
Well, I didn't know he did 3 explosions.
Yeah, I mean, look, he was targeting black people, Asian people and gays. That's his manifesto right there.
Oh, my goodness.
So this is why there's a Pride Month, everybody.
Yeah.
You know, because the fight goes on because there are twats like Copeland who just want to kill people that don't fit into their stupid worldview.
On the 27th of September, the Midland Bank adopts the name of its owner, HSBC, marking the end of the Midland Bank name after 163 years.
Yeah, well...
You can't stop progress.
You can't. This is the big consortiums coming now.
Yeah.
You know, think of Canary Wharf. That wasn't there 15 years before. And the whole city financial way of doing everything's changed. These massive corporations now. Midland Bank was the Griffin, wasn't it?
I'm
Did you
a
have
Midland
a kiddie
Bank
account there?
Yeah, I remember if you opened a junior account,
yes,
you got a file and a pencil case.
Yes, I had it.
And various, like a geometry set. Very sad looking back now, but you did because it was brand shiny and new and it was something that you got for free.
Yeah.
Being Northerners, we only got 50p pocket money a week.
Exactly, so you put 50p pocket money in your, right on your little column. You're very proud. But of course, again, 50p in those days, buy your house.
Yeah.
The 31st of December, we're ringing out the old millennium when huge celebrations are held across the country, including the official opening of the Millennium Dome and the unveiling of the London Eye in London, and everybody shaking themselves for midnight when planes are going to fall out of the sky because of the Millennium Bug. 30 seconds later, it's not going to happen. No. It's fine. Everyone can just chill the fuck out.
Where did you spend the Millennium?
In a bit of a really shitty relationship at a party that I wasn't very happy at. We went up to Parliament Hill and watched the fireworks. It was a bit of a...
damp squib.
I'd rather not talk about it.
No. Me and my friend Kelly were going through similar experiences, but at least we were together. New Year's Eve's are shitty at the best times. If you're going through a shitty time and you're supposed to be celebrating the turn of the millennium.
Yeah, double pressure.
Double pressure.
Yeah, to have a great time because it's New Year's Eve.
Woohoo.
Yeah, even inside you're dying. God, I hate it.
Hi, Kelly, if you're listening. She is listening. She's a gazer.
Hi, Kelly. So that was lots of death.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. I think we need to pep ourselves up a bit, don't you?
I completely agree.
Talk of death.
Should we have a look what was in the cinema?
Let's do it.
So these are the top 10 films of 1999 in the UK. And number 10, Tarzan.
Didn't see it.
No.
Cartoon, did it?
Windy Pops.
Took to wind you.
Yeah, thank you.
Go. Oh,
there you go. Okay, that. Yeah.
Okay, number 9, The Matrix, the start of the Matrix phenomenon.
I never saw it at the time.
I didn't either.
And it was only a couple of years later, and I had to turn it off because I was really high on weed, and it did my head in, so I couldn't watch it.
Yeah, I think if you weren't kind of compass mentis watching that, then you're on a hiding to nothing, really.
Yeah.
Still mentally scarred from it, aren't you?
Number 8, The Mummy. That was a good film.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit heavy on the CG these days, very bad, dodgy.
It is, but at the time, it was good. And Brendan Fraser.
Yeah.
I know we don't like to objectify on the problematic gays, because it is problematic in itself, but...
Yeah, but he was hot, wasn't he? Yeah.
At number 7, Shakespearean Love, which seemed to me to be an all right film, but a bit of a lovey wank fest.
Yeah, it was a bit, wasn't it? It's very nice and it's fun, but it's very predictable. It's very straight. It looks pretty. Number 6, ironically, The Sixth Sense.
Great film.
Jinx. The twist is still great.
Yeah, we won't reveal it,
Yeah,
gazers.
we won't reveal it, but he's dead.
At number 5, The World Is Not Enough, James Bond. One of the lesser good James Bond,
never
I would
saw
say. Oh my God, it had Denise Richards as Christmas
Merry
Jones.
Christmas. Oh, yeah, no.
I don't like to disparage people's work, but...
You don't like to objectify, you don't like to disparage, but you've done both.
I know.
Number 4, Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me.
Love that, I have to say.
I must have seen it, but I just can't remember anything about it. Again, this is 1999 when in full throw of my clubbing years at this point in time. So anything I may have seen or experienced, chances are I've completely forgotten it.
Right, okay. Number 3, A Bug's Life. Cartoon. Not cartoon, CGI.
It's the animation.
Shit, yeah, not sure. Not a Parstrasser.
Number 2, Notting Hill. I mean...
We might have to do that, but
Yeah.
I wasn't subjected to it. I'm sure it's deeply problematic.
Of course it is.
It's got Julia Roberts. I've got a thing about Julia Roberts.
It's not Julia Roberts in Notting Hill. Oh, it is.
I thank you.
I was thinking 4 Weddings and a Funeral, which is Andy McDowell, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll just shut the fuck up. What's number 1?
Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
What a letdown.
You recently, I say during lockdown, was it, watched all the Star Wars films in order?
Watched all the Star Wars films in order.
What a film to start off on.
Well, exactly. My main conclusion by the end of the hours I'd spent was a bit shit, actually. I loved the ones as a kid, obviously, but...
I mean, there was so much build-up to this movie,
yeah.
wasn't there? Because it was the first Star Wars film since the mid-80s, and George Lucas was directing it, and it was just going to be the big comeback, and isn't it going to be brilliant? We'll have Star Wars back in our lives.
For
Star
real.
Wars, yeah, Freudian slip there. Wasn't very good.
No characterisation or plot at all.
No. And Jar Jar Binks.
I didn't mind Jar Jar Binks, but then I liked an Ewok. Yeah, I can totally see why people were really fucking annoyed.
Well, it kind of ruined that guy's career who did the voice for it.
Did
didn't
it?
Yeah.
That's a shame.
And I think he went through some kind of deep psychological trauma about playing it and the backlash he got for
Not
it.
surprised. Must have been horrendous.
Yeah, I mean, people just need to get a life, really, don't they?
Right, well, that was the film landscape. We shall have a look at the top 20 for the week of the 12th of September 1999.
Okay, let's
see what
do
was in
it.
the charts. Confidence.
I think this is when I was starting to lose track of the charts. Again, busy out, clubbing, having fun. So we'll see. Okay, number 20, Drinking in LA, Bran Van 3000. Yeah, all right song. Yeah,
Yeah, it's harmless, isn't it? Living La Vida Loca, Ricky Martin, living the crazy life with Ricky.
Friend of the pod.
Is he?
No. Kind of wish he
Your
was.
fantasy friend of the pod. Who else is on there? Gary
Madonna.
Lineker.
Gary Lineker? Why the hell would Gary Lineker be my fantasy friend?
Some people find him very attractive.
Well, I think you're projecting there.
Gary, if you're listening.
Come on the pod for Lee. Number 18, Summertime of Our Lives, A1. Those are the floppy hair.
Yeah. Number 17, If I Let You Go, Westlife.
Number 16, Summer Girls, Light Funky Ones.
Means nothing to me. Number 15, TLC, Unpretty.
Lovely song, that.
Right.
Absolutely love it. I love TLC. I saw something on the internet, on the TikTok or something, where they
Must
just...
be true.
Yeah. Well, no, it was them in front of a camera.
So it must be.
But mind you,
AI.
you don't even know
You
these
don't
days,
know.
do you?
You don't know.
I mean, you're looking at things now. This is the new reality of our lives, is that you're looking at something and you're thinking, is this real?
Yes.
Increasingly.
Yeah.
Because people say this is specifically AI, and you look at it and it's just like watching real people talking. Scary.
Well, creative teams are getting very scared because Jason Isaacs was talking the other day about he'd been to some AI conference and he said within 2 years all of us are going to be really affected by AI. We think it's not going to happen, but it is going to happen. For instance, things in the creative industries, makeup artists don't need to book models anymore because they can do this on AI. Anyway, there's a load of people thinking, shit, this is supposed to help us, but actually...
I also saw, I will get back to TLC in a minute, but there was this news item, which I'm assuming is real, about Melania Trump's autobiography, which has just come out.
Paperback version, because I think it came out last year, I think.
Yeah, but this is like the audiobook version.
Okay.
And it's read by an AI, Melania Trump.
You're joking.
And they said, we're going to play 2 different versions, Melania's real voice and the AI voice. But it was pretty clear which was the AI voice and which was Melania's. But like you say, give it 2 years. What another difference?
Yeah.
We won't even know if Melania Trump's real by then. Mind you, might all be blown up by then, who knows?
Oh, God, all right, that took a turn.
Shall I get back to TLC?
Yeah.
So TLC were at the Grammys. I think it might have been for this album that Unpretty was on. And they basically let rip at their management, saying, you might think that we've had all this success, we sold all these albums, we're holding Grammys in our hands. Basically, the gist of it was, we ain't got a pot to piss in because our management have taken all our money.
Wow, gosh.
So we were talking last week, weren't we, or the week before, about On Vogue?
Yes, and one of them ended up living in a car.
Yeah. Was it ever Versailles?
You're getting out, do you?
Well, women
Unless you
just
write
being
your-
shafted
Yeah.
by the record companies.
Yeah. There she goes at number 14 by sixpence none the richer. I just never liked that for the very name of the band.
Okay, we've got a classic here. Number 13, Sing It Back, Moloko.
Yeah, that's a Stone Cold classic. Absolutely. Yeah. Number 12, you could also argue very much of its time, but a classic, Better Off Alone, Alice DJ.
Yeah. Number 11, Mi Chica Latina, Jerry Halliwell.
I mean, another very much of its time. I did love that song.
Very much a Madonna La Isla Bonita rip-off.
Totally. It's the 4th single. Gina G did it with one called Ti Amo. Don't know if you remember, but you get 3 singles, and the 4th one's usually got a Spanish flavour to try and get the Latin market. Martine McCutcheon's there at number 10 with I've Got You.
Oh. Number 9, it's Moving by Supergrass.
Don't know it.
You do.
I don't.
You do. I'll play it to you later, darling.
No, you won't. At number 8, Enrique Iglesias with Bailamos, dancing, that means.
Does it?
Bailamos.
Enrique, thoughts?
Never thought about him.
No.
Did he sing, We can be a hero, baby?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't bear it.
Yeah.
I couldn't be asked for that.
Okay, number 7, Africa Shocks, Left Field Bambata. So I don't know if that's a play on African Bambata or what.
Again, Ultravox moment.
Yeah.
Yep.
This means nothing to me.
No. Mucha Mambo Sway by Shaft at number 6. Oh, this is losing steam, isn't it? This top 10.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, number 5, Friends Forever, Thunderbugs.
Number 4, Mickey, cover of the Tony Basil classic by Wally.
Crickets.
Number 1, Better Pull It Out of the Bag.
Yeah. Number 3, The Launch, DJ Gene.
DJ Gene.
DJ Gene.
Number 2, Mambo number 5. I'm sure some people like it, but I fucking hate it. A little bit of Jessica, a little bit of Dr. Lee by Lou Bega.
It just reminds me of the scene in The Royal Family where they're stripping the wallpaper and they're dancing to that song.
Means nothing to me.
Okay. Oh my God. You are very hard to impress this week. You're taking no prisoners.
Do you want to see what's number 1?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We're going to Ibiza.
The Venga Boys. This is the height of clubbing abroad holidays, isn't it? This is like when Pasha and Ministry have these big clubs in Ibiza, obviously, is the big one. Iron Napa's coming up this year when you get hundreds of thousands of young British people going off to get off their head on pills and club.
Aye.
All right.
Don't do foreign.
Egg and chips in the morning.
Yeah, let's go to Skeggy for my holidays.
Well, that was a little bit of a disappointment, that chart, wasn't it? A little bit of Monica. See what you did there. Started off quite well, but then now that really fizzled out to a load of old shit.
It fizzled out like a very sloppy wet fart.
Yeah, it did. Ooh. Let's leave it there, should we? So, David, to the matter in hand, would you like to tell us a little bit about But I'm a Cheerleader?
I will. But I'm a Cheerleader is a 1990 American satirical teen romantic comedy film directed by Jamie Babbitt in her feature directorial debut and written by Brian Wayne Peterson. It stars Natasha Lyonne, goddess in my eyes, as Megan Bloomfield, a high school cheerleader, and it also has a supporting cast including Clea DuVall, Rupaul and Cathy Moriarty. While the film has developed a cult following since its release, it was not well received by conservative critics at the time, surprise, who compared it unfavourably to the films of John Waters and criticised the colourful production design. Lead actors were also praised for their performances, but some of the characters were described as stereotypical, which we'll discuss further.
Indeed we will.
So, Lee, why don't you tell us what happens in this film?
Megan Bloomfield couldn't possibly be a lesbian because she's a cheerleader, right? But after an intervention from her family and friends, she's sent to True Directions, a 2-month-long conversion therapy camp who will convert her back to heterosexuality. There, Megan meets Graham, confusingly named Graham. Graham is a female character, who is more comfortable with her sexuality, and she meets other young adults who are all trying to cure themselves of their queerness. Despite family pressure, the strict rules of Mary J. Brown, the school's director, and her own self-doubt, Megan's growing relationship with Graham confirms her sexual identity, and Megan ends the film with Graham living her authentic life. Discuss.
Before we go into the nitty-gritty of the film and its plot and everything, shall we talk, because it's Pride Month, about an issue that's very contentious to the gay community, and that is conversion therapy. You've been doing some research into it, haven't you?
Yes, and it's absolutely fucking horrific, if I'm being brutally honest. So conversion therapy obviously stems from the idea that people can be turned straight. It's on the basis that people choose their sexual identities. So homosexuality, lesbianism is not something that's inherent and natural, but it's something that somebody chooses. So the classic question was always, when did you decide to be gay? Or when did you turn gay? To which the classic response should always have been, when did you turn straight? Or when did you decide to be straight? And there have been, over many, many hundreds of years, attempts to convert people back to heterosexuality. Some absolutely barbaric, some absolutely fucking nutcake bizarre.
Based in religion, quite a lot of them.
A lot of them based in religion, yeah. There's a lot of psychoanalytical approaches at the bottom rung of the horror of trying to convert people back into heterosexuals. Hypnosis is often used since the 19th century, and the power of suggestion. You get, like you do in this film, people who are no longer gay out on ministries kind of spreading. They're often religious-based ones. I used to be gay, but now I'm completely 100% happily married with a family. More horribly, you can get castration. Historically, it was usually men forced to undergo gay conversion therapy because the homosexual man was a threat to the world order in a way that a lesbian woman never was, because patriarchy, you know. So 2 forms of castration. First one is you have your bollocks removed, basically. And the second one is chemical castration, where you're pumped with a drug which totally reduces your sex drive completely, but to the point where men who had it started to grow breasts, and huge depressive, you know, this is what happened to Alan Turing. He chose this chemical castration. Ultimately, brain surgery is next on the horror level. For hundreds of years, people performing trepanning on people to try and knock the homosexuality out of them. And finally, we have aversion therapy, where you are exposed to a visual or an auditory cue, and then something bad is made to happen to you. I enjoyed this film, and again, it's very much because this film was made in 1999, and conversion therapy was not so widely known about, or the various methodologies, or wasn't talked about as much. But after actually knowing how conversion therapy works, and in most civilized countries, most people are vastly against it, I have to say, which is heartening. But it left me feeling a little bit, this film seems to be making light of, again, through an innocence, but something that's really kind of quite horrific for lots of people, and still goes on very much this day. So sorry to bring a Debbie Downer on it straight away.
But I think it was important to start with that, about the facts of conversion therapy. Now, obviously this is a satire on conversion therapy.
Yes.
And very much a comedy, a kind of a FU to conversion therapy. But I think ultimately what this is about a young girl's journey into discovering her sexuality.
Yeah.
From a family that's pretty religious, a family that threatens to ostracize her if she doesn't go back to being straight, so to speak, in inverted commas. So I don't think we should look upon this as... I know you said it made you feel uncomfortable, but I think we should see this as what it is. It's a satire.
Yeah, absolutely. And I enjoyed it on a satirical level. Yeah. It was interesting having that reaction to it coming from a time when I didn't have all this information about it. When we now know historical cases of people like Alan Turing who've had horrible things happen to them. So, but yeah, I enjoyed it at the level it was on. Yeah. I don't think it would get made today. And that's not to say it's problematic at all, but because of what we know about what goes on, I don't think it would adopt a less frivolous tone, I suppose.
Yes.
It's a fun film. Yeah.
It is a fun film. So let's just talk about the film itself then. We'll park that for now.
Yes.
And talk about the film. So, like you said, the basic setup is a group of young boys and a group of young girls are sent to true directions by their concerned parents.
Yeah.
We get Megan, who's played by Natasha Lyonne, has basically an intervention staged upon her. Her friends and her mum and dad have said, you look a bit too long at the girls. The girls don't like you being huggy with them. You've got a picture of a woman in your locker.
She eats tofu.
She has tapestry pillows that are shaped in the form of
a vagina. Yeah.
So
she doesn't like kissing her boyfriend.
She doesn't like.
And why would you? Because even though he's gorgeous, clearly he just comes in mouth open and just tries to eat her face.
Yeah, it's all very awkward, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they stage an intervention and she's sent off to True Directions where she meets all her friends.
But first of all, we get Rupaul arriving at her house. Rupaul I think it's a rare role when he's not in drag. So this is Rupaul out of drag. He's billed as Rupaul Charles and he's playing an ex-gay. Yeah. Who now works for True Directions. He's got a T-shirt on that says "Straight is great," and he's clearly not straight.
It's great actually because to touch upon RuPaul's performance in this, I think he does a really great job in playing this person who is putting on butch and macho, but underlying that is the fact that he's camp as a row of tents. He's gay as the day. Yeah, obviously on board because of the subject matter and everything. So Megan gets sent to True Directions, doesn't she? So we meet the director of True Directions, Mary J. Brown, played by Cathy Moriarty, and her son, Rock, played by Eddie Cibrian, married to Leanne Rimes. There's a whole story behind that if anybody wants to investigate it. So we meet Mary, we meet Rock, and then we meet the fellow residents of True Directions, don't we?
Yes, we do. And it's a real mixed bag, isn't it? There's a goth girl, there's the nice girl who wants to do everything right, and there's 4 boys, one who's really camp queen, there's a Jewish boy, obviously, who's not allowed to be gay because he's Jewish, there's the kind of jock, and there's an Asian lad. So there's 8 of them, including our heroine. And we meet Graham, Clea DuVall. Graham is very comfortable with her own sexuality and refuses to deal with the bullshit of it all. She's the rebel, isn't she? Yeah. And this is all couched in religion, isn't it? It's all couched in religion and it's couched in the really 1950s heteronormative ideal. Yeah. And the gender roles, all the boys wear blue and all the girls wear pink. The girls work in environments where everything's pink and ditto for the boys. And they are taught very specific gendered roles, housework and etc. for the girls, car mechanics and contact sports for the boys with predictable results.
The tasks they make the girls and the boys perform as part of their therapy is funny. The girls vacuum, the boys do car maintenance, the girls make wedding dresses, the boys chop wood, the girls do makeup, the boys do guns and warfare.
And there are stages, aren't there, of the conversion process. So the first stage is actually admitting that you're gay. And she refuses. She says, but I'm a cheerleader.
And she says, I just want to be normal.
Yes. But then she realises that she is gay because she's been looking at the other boobs of the other girls. So, and the girls at night, they all have been given a device which gives them an electric shock, don't they, if they have any intrusive sexual thoughts.
Yes, there's a lot of buzzing going on, isn't there? A lot of buzzing and a lot of vibrating going on. Then they talk about what your root cause is, the event in your life that turned you gay, which in itself is just a strange phenomenon, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's the classic thing, as we've just said, the classic, when did you decide? When did you turn? You know, that precludes the idea that you always felt like that and have always been like that for the whole of your life, you know. It's a classic straight question, isn't it?
It's when I was thinking about that, I was thinking they're kind of confusing root cause. But in the real life, for every queer person there's a moment where they realise
they're different.
My life starts to make sense. So it's not. But I think they could probably use this as a form of, there was obviously a moment in your life where you turned gay. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They construed it to make it as though there was something wrong with you and it turned at that moment. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, there's got to have been a reason for it.
Yeah.
A negative cause.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Megan suggests it's her domineering mother and her emasculated father.
Oh, yes, because her dad was out of work, wasn't he, for a year?
Yes.
So mum takes on the roles and that's it. So the threats are the threats of the heteronormative established order.
Yes.
You know, they're striving to make these young people an acceptable part of this order, back to the breadwinner and housewife model.
Absolutely. So the families come in and they have family therapy, and it's a kind of like a device of trying to get to know the main characters more, where they bring the parents in. And Graham's parents, I mean, the dad's an absolute cunt. He uses the F-word slur and everything. We get under the skin of Graham a little more, because on the outside she comes across as quite defiant, quite self-assured, like, this therapy isn't going to touch the sides with me. I know who I am and I'm just going to sail through it. Agree with what they say, but I know who I am.
Yes.
But then when the parents come in and say, this is it for you, if you do not convert to being straight, there's no college fund for you, there's no inheritance for you, we'll never see you again, and cut you off.
Yeah, she decides she can't fuck the things up. She has to have the college fund and everything.
Yeah.
So she dumps Megan at one point.
Yeah,
that's the pressure she's under from her family, which,
Yeah.
Speaks about the pressure that all these people have been put under and have to, again, live a lie, not living your true self.
Yeah.
They have a stage when they're demystifying the opposite sex. So it's more pictures. They just fed more pictures of the kind of straight housewife doing the washing up, the men in undercars and stuff, and
which I thought actually was quite funny, because the pictures they were showing them were just collages. They were invented. They were made up.
Yeah. Did you know this? I enjoyed this film. It didn't quite go far enough with the comedy. It almost got it.
Yeah.
And I can see why it was compared to John Waters' movies. And especially because Mink Stoll is in it, who plays her mum, and she's one of John Waters' alumni. It just didn't quite do it for me 100%. I enjoyed it, but I think the humour could have been more in your face with it. It felt a little bit held back.
Yeah, I think let's just talk about the kind of the story and the style of the film. I think you're right. I think the story was quite a flimsy story held together with visual montages or skits or pieces.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a huge amount of substance to it. At the core of it was a love story between these two girls who met in this kind of hideous situation. It could have gone further with what they had to endure, because then, we would have got to like a denouement that they've had to endure real hardship to get to this point of resolution, where it just seemed to be a kind of like a series of kind of comedy sketches. That's not to take away from what they were going through this conversion therapy, but even that was kind of, it was made light of, it was made fun of. As you said, you found it a little bit unpalatable.
It's camp. But actually, is it camp? It's stylised. I think it would like to be camp. I think that Mary J. Brown is for sure camp, and she is superb.
Yeah.
But the rest of it looks camp, but it doesn't quite achieve campness, I don't think.
Yeah, I think the design of this film, the colour palette, I thought was great. It was fun. There has been criticism that the colour palette lent towards John Waters, but doesn't quite get it as the way John Waters does. And there was an accusation at the time that all these characters are stereotypes, like we talked about. Oh, the goth gay, the jock gay.
Yeah.
So this one guy works in retail and the other guy is a kind of actor dancer.
Yes.
And then we've got the girls, and one of them's made to represent the kind of the butch lesbian type and everything.
Yeah.
Which I thought actually with her, it was one of the most heartfelt moments. It kind of like really worked, because she'd been sent to this camp because of the way she looked. Everybody presumed she was gay, and she said, I'm trying to tell everybody that I am actually straight.
Yes. Yeah.
But nobody will believe me because of the way I look. So that was, reversal of expectations there and stuff.
Yeah.
That was a sweet moment with her. But yeah, it was fairly stereotypical. But then again, I guess things were quite stereotypical at the turn of the century.
Yeah, it's representation, and I think you've got all kinds of different types of people represented, and
And I think if if it was more subversive, then the film might not have got made.
Yeah, they're all in quite broad strokes, aren't they?
Yeah.
I do believe it was censored initially.
Was it?
That some of the conservative distributors refused to let it go originally how she planned it. It was a bit too close to the knuckle, even though we say it's quite sanitised and satirical. But
one thing that I thought was quite interesting was the ex-gays who had been in conversion therapy at True Directions, but had broken free and lived nearby. And every so often, they would liberate the residents and take them to the local gay club, which ultimately a couple of them, including Megan, did escape to. It's kind of like we talked last week about the houses in Paris is Burning. It was kind of like that in a kind of light form, wasn't it?
Yeah, I suppose it's that whole thing again, rainbow families, for lots of queer people, that you find your families away from your blood families, and it can be any circumstance. And there are thankfully places where young kids and young people can get help like that. I thought it was quite sweet that that little setup. And it turns out later on that the Asian kid from the school has been living there as well, and he's reunited with this because he's caught having a shag with the jock guy, and the jock guy has to go and live in a kennel while the Asian guy's kicked him out. Yeah, that was sweet.
So like we said, the ex-gays live just outside of True Directions. And the director of True Directions, Mary, played by Cathy Moriarty, really hates these guys. They're the thorn in her side, aren't they? So she decides to organise a protest. So all the residents go with signs saying homos out and other slurs that, pretty near the knuckle, actually.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of the Westboro Baptist Church.
Yes.
When you see the signs there, which were a thing at the turn of the century, weren't they?
Jesus hates gays. They're still around. They're still doing it.
Yeah, and all that. It kind of made me uncomfortable, this little section.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it just, I don't know why. Why would that make me uncomfortable?
Back to that basis of the religious homophobia, religious sanctioned homophobia. It might be worth a little moment this time to talk about the book of Leviticus in the Bible, which is what causes all this problem. The book of Leviticus says a man shouldn't lie with another man. Since the birth of Christianity, endless persecutions of gay men because of this one particular passage in the Bible. The book of Leviticus is the one that in this country the sodomy laws are based on, that Henry VIII brings in.
Right.
And also is the book that causes him a lot of headache because it says that if you lie with your brother's wife, then you won't have any kids. And of course, he's married his dead brother's wife, Catherine of Aragon, his first wife, and has no children. But it's also quite an interesting book in the Bible for some of the other crazy shit it's got in there. I'll give you some examples of what the book of Leviticus also says. So it just shows, it's easy to cherry pick the bits. If you want to persecute somebody, I'm just going to cherry pick this little bit while ignoring conveniently the nuts stuff. Such as, hold that thought, David. Such as things like you're not supposed to eat pigs or rabbits, fair enough. You're not allowed to plant fields with mixed seeds and wear clothes made with different types of fibre. You're not allowed to eat any meat that still has the blood in it. You're not allowed to spit. You can't practice sorcery. You can't allowed to have tattoos. And you're not allowed to crossbreed animals like dogs. You're not allowed to breed different kinds of dogs or any kind of animals. So those rules are just ignored while there's still this one that says a man shouldn't sleep with another man, which historians have actually argued might not necessarily mean homosexual sex. So all those tattooed MAGAists who quote this bollocks are actually with their tattoos also shouldn't be allowed by the book of Leviticus. So all that religious take on this comes from this one line in the Bible.
Oh, does it boil your piss, darling?
It boils my piss, love.
Okay.
It's steaming, it's frothing down there. It's like one of those coffee machines you can do at home when you're doing a bit of frothy milk at the end.
Thought I could smell something.
It's boiling.
Okay, right, let's move back to the film. That was a really interesting little sideline there, because I didn't know all that.
Right.
That's what they base this on.
Yes, also says you can keep slaves.
Gosh. Okay, so then we get to step 5, the final test, which is simulated sexual lifestyle. So we cue, I would say hilarious, but moderately funny.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite fun. They've got like bodysuits on. They remind me of those Vivienne Westwood when she put Sarah Stockbridge in a nude suit with a fake leaf.
Yeah.
The similar kind of look. I'm sure it's a nod to that.
Yeah. Which also I felt it was just a little bit uncomfortable. I don't know.
Yeah, they just lay on top of each other and stimulated
Yeah.
moving around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of juxtaposed with another thing that I thought was a nice little highlight of this movie, because I'm not saying everything was bad about it at all, because I did enjoy a lot of it, but there was a really sensitively handled, tender love scene between Graham and Megan.
Yes, there was. Yeah.
And I thought that was one of the highlights. It wasn't gratuitous. It wasn't two fannies bumping together, for want of a better word. It just focused on the intimacy of their relationship and sex and how they discovered each other and stuff.
Yeah.
Rather than being gratuitous humping.
Yes, it was a nice, that the setup and the playoff between the two of them was nice,
Yeah.
And at the end, they have a graduation ceremony.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, by this stage, Megan's gone to the ex-gays.
Yeah.
And crashes the graduation. And then at the end, her and Graham on the back of a pickup truck, kissing each other passionately as they drive off into the sunset.
She gets her girl.
She gets a girl.
At the
It was
end.
nice. It felt nice.
It was nice. I felt the execution of it. I just felt as though they just run out of momentum towards the end of this film. It was nice.
It was fine.
But it was fine. Yeah, you kind of left this film just thinking, yeah, all right then.
It's only
Rather
90
than,
minutes.
Oh, that was lovely.
Yeah.
As far as denouements go, it's not one of the best.
Yeah, but nice to see in cinema a lesbian relationship which is allowed to develop and have the two women go off together at the end, as opposed to one of them has to die tragically, which is usually the trope with lesbian relationships on film and TV. Can't have two happy lesbians, one of them will have to die.
Yeah.
Have you got anything more to say about this?
No, I think
haven't.
that's about it.
haven't.
Okay.
What would you rate this movie?
I would rate this movie, I think I would give it 2 scores.
Yes.
I think 1 for the story and the execution of it, direction of it, the design of it. I'd probably give it about 6 pom-poms out of 10.
Right.
For the message it was trying to put forward, love conquers all, there's ain't nothing wrong about being queer, just find yourself, find your tribe, and all that kind of thing. I would give it 7 pom-poms out of 10.
Right. I feel I can just give it 1 overall score.
Yeah.
I would give it 7 electric shock probes out of 10. If anything, it was just knowing what we know now about conversion therapy kind of tainted it a bit. And I don't think it would get made today, but that's because the film is not itself inherently problematic. Just how we now know what we know about conversion therapy would make this problematic. But it was fine. Quite enjoyed it.
One more question.
Yep.
Have you ever fantasised about being a cheerleader?
No. Have you?
No, but my sister did have pom-poms and I
Did
did
she?
covet them.
I used to make pom-poms in the summer holidays. When you get you cut 2 bits of card and put a hole in the middle and you just roll around the whole thing and then you tie it and then you cut around it and you get a pom-pom would come out.
A little woolen pom-pom.
Yeah. Did you never do those?
We did it at school in arts and crafts.
Yeah, we used to do it in the summer holidays.
We've deviated slightly, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
So that was But I'm A Cheerleader. Before we leave you, we just urge you to please follow our socials at Podcast Gays on TikTok and Instagram. Please give us a follow wherever you get your podcasts, because that really does help spread the word of the problematic gays.
Right, I'm off to the cocksucker bar. What are you doing?
You can't say that. I won't let you.
It's the name of the bar in the film.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
All right then. Where are you off to now, Lee?
I'm off to the cocksucker bar, darling. Where are you going? Do you want to come?
Okay, Gazers, that is the name of the bar in the film that we've just watched, by the way.
Yeah, and not just me being completely crude, but do you fancy it, darling?
Yeah, why not?
Get your chaps out, love. Come on.
Oh.
Au reservoir.
Get your jockstrap on.